I could bet all of the riches that I ever had.
Hello, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Clutch Time podcast brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. I'm your host, Adam King, at AdamKing91 on Twitter is where you can find me. Check out all of our content over at fbibasketball.com. Clutch Time is back. It's been a couple of weeks. Work's been busy, life's been busy, but B-Dub and I have got together and trying to come up with a bit of a schedule. So we're hoping to do two of these podcasts a week, one on a Sunday night, one on a Wednesday Australian time. So we'll come out same day, but early in the morning in America, obviously. And basically it's, episode of Clutch Time. We're calling it Transaction Talk, and it's really just focusing on players you can stream, players you can add, players you can drop. And this one being the Sunday one and the end of the head-to-head matchups, end of the week. I'll actually look at each game on the Sunday and talk about who you can stream in. Let's jump straight into it. Let's see if my slides work. Okay, first game on Sunday. It's an early one. I have a feeling it's a 3:30 Eastern tip-off. New York at Phoenix. So as I said, just going to go through team by team, having a look at who you could consider streaming in. Obviously, you don't have to. For the Knicks, Jericho Sims, look at streaming him in. He's not starting, but he has been playing more minutes than Hartenstein, or at least as many minutes, and has been pretty good for blocks and rebounds. So if you're looking to shore up those categories on Sunday, have a look at him. Once Mitchell Robinson's back, I'm not sure what the minute split is going to be there, whether Sims was basically out of the rotation when Robinson was in. So this is really just potentially a one-game thing. Emmanuel Quickly, another guy you could look to stream in, obviously not for blocks and rebounds, but for points, some assists, some steals. He'll give you those guard stats. The minutes are a bit up and down, as we know, with Quickly and the Knicks, but I think there's enough there for him to be considered. And Cam Reddish, so I've got the little, it's meant to be an asterisk there, but it comes up with some weird square symbol. That is because he is questionable, I think, for tomorrow. So, a bit risky there if you need to lock your rosters in or make your pickups by a certain time. Reddish has been decent. We've seen this before. Chances are it falls off and he ends up doing nothing. But if you need some steals especially, he's been pretty good there on the defensive end. So someone to consider if you can wait until closer to tip-off just to make sure he is available. On the Phoenix side, Chris Paul is out again. So, I would have Cameron Payne on here, but he should be rostered everywhere by now. Torrey Craig and Damian Lee both worth a look. Torrey Craig is starting and playing 30 minutes. Doesn't have a ton of upside, but he's been pretty good the last couple of games. So, I'm still not there as him on a long-term ad, even though Cam Johnson is out for another sort of 4 to 6 weeks probably. Craig is still more of a streamer in my eyes, but as I said, he has been pretty good. So could stream him in and just leave him there and see what happens. Damian Lee, more of just a streamer for points and threes. Second game, Charlotte at Washington. Charlotte, Dennis Smith, should have put that little asterisk there next to him. He is questionable as well. So, you don't want to obviously pick him up, and he may not end up playing. So if you can wait until closer to tip-off, but that could be tricky given that the Knicks game is an early one tomorrow. So, it's risky with Dennis Smith, but feel free to take a shot if you want to. With LaMelo Ball out. Jalen McDaniels, Nick Richards, both worth a look, I think. Nick Richards, obviously, is behind Plumlee, but outplayed him in the last game. He's not going to start, but in 20 minutes, he can get you good rebounds and good blocks, a little bit like Jericho Sims. Jalen McDaniels, Hayward is back, so that does hurt him, but with LaMelo out, he'll probably still see sort of 22 to 24 minutes. Here for the Wizards, Not a lot, really. Corey Kispert, he can be a source of points and threes, not much else. Denny Avdia has been starting, so he's probably sort of on the cusp of being a 12 team, maybe not an ad, but a consideration. So for streaming, I think he's worth a look tomorrow. He can put up sort of decent numbers across the board there. Third game, Detroit at Sacramento. For Detroit, we got word today on Cade Cunningham. It looks as though he's going to be out for a while. Deciding on surgery, he's got a stress fracture, I think, in his shin. Pretty painful, I would imagine. And they are looking at surgery. And look, honestly, I mean, what's the incentive to get him back? They're already right down the bottom of the standings, and that's sort of where they want to be. So, yeah, if he's out long term, Killian Hayes potentially becomes more of an ad here. That's why I've got the ad in brackets. He is someone I'd be streaming in, but actually holding on to. He can be a good source of assists and steals, and his offensive game is still pretty raw, but we have seen glimpses of some improvement the last couple of games. So worth a look there. Alec Burks, we know what he can do, points, threes. Grab him. He could be really good for a week and then do nothing for a week. So stream him in. And Jalen Duran, despite Bagley starting, and honestly, he's looked so bad. Jalen Duran, coming off the bench, has played 22, 23 minutes, I think, each of the last 2 or 3 games. Blocks and rebounds, worth a look. I think he's not going to get the minutes that we think he should, but still worth a look, I think, as a streamer. And for Sacramento, Malik Monk, another guy who I think can be added in 12-team leagues, obviously streamed in as well, but I think there's some long-term value there for him. And Trey Lyles, look, that's a pretty ugly one, to be honest. I was just trying to find more than one on their team. Lyles has been okay, but yeah, look, if you want to stream him in, go ahead. Although with 8 games, you're probably not going to need more than about one streamer, I'm sure. The majority of these names would be better than him. Grizzlies at Brooklyn. Few on the Grizzlies side here. We know Ja Morant is out with an ankle sprain they're saying week to week, so we don't really know what that looks like, but he's not playing tomorrow. Desmond Bane is out as well. I didn't put Dylan Brooks here. I'm assuming he is added or has been added in most leagues, despite what's going to be some rough percentages there for him. He should have been added. John Conchar and Tyus Jones, both worth streaming in and probably both worth adding as well. Tyus Jones, typically we see when Ja Morant doesn't play, Tyus Jones gets a huge bump. I think both of these guys can be 12-team options. Despite playing similar roles or a similar position, they actually sort of deliver different stat sets. So Tyus obviously is going to give you assists and steals, whereas John Conchar is a really good rebounder from the guard position, can get blocks as well. So he will give you more of your big man stats from the guard spot, which can be handy. Brandon Clark is worth a look, as is Santi Aldama, with Jaren Jackson out tomorrow. It's just a maintenance thing. It's nothing long term. So both of these guys, it is only a sort of a one-game stream, I think. And for the Nets, not really anyone. Even these 2 guys, I've got Joe Harris and Seth Curry. Neither of them, I think, are strong options. But if you just need threes, we do know what they can do. So, but I think we're going to have Kyrie back. Ben Simmons is sort of creeping up towards the minutes we expected from him. So, yeah, look, I think with the Nets basically at full strength, Harris and Curry are risky. Next game, Miami at Cleveland for the Heat. Now, look, I didn't include a ton of names here because we really just don't know who's playing. They only had 7 players in their last game, so I probably wouldn't risk taking any of these Heat guys except for maybe Caleb Martin. He played in the last game and was okay. Didn't shoot the ball well, but we know he can put up numbers on both ends. So Caleb Martin would probably be the only one I'd sort of recommend. Gabe Vincent, if he plays, could be really good, but we don't know if he's playing. He was in the last game and then was ruled out sort of late with knee, I think, inflammation or something. So just wait and see there. For Cleveland, again, very few streaming options. Robin Lopez, potentially, and that's really just based on Kevin Love being ruled out with a finger thing, I think a hairline fracture. Sounds like something he is going to play through and hasn't been ruled out for tomorrow, but a decent chance he doesn't play. And so Lopez, I think if he picks up those backup centre minutes and gets maybe 20, we know what he can do. He can contribute with some rebounds and efficient scoring. And Karis LeVert should have been dropped in most leagues. If you want to stream him in and hope that you get lucky and get some assists, go for it. Warriors and Rockets. For the Warriors, I had no one here. And then I just wanted to get a name in. So Kevon Looney, I've put in there just if you need rebounds and some, again, efficient scoring, much like Robin Lopez. Although Looney's role is obviously assured. He's the starter. So he can be streamed in. For the Rockets, a few names here. Tari Eason, who could be available in your league. He's sort of on that cut line. You can stream him in if you need some boards and steals. Eric Gordon for threes and points, but he's very hot and cold. He could get 20. He could go for 3 on 1 of 9 shooting. So risky there. Şengün is questionable, I'm fairly certain, for tomorrow. I mean, a lot of you, when you're listening to this, then we may have clarity on whether he's playing. But if he doesn't play, Usman Garuba, I think he's worth a look. He's been pretty good recently. So I think if Şengün is ruled out, Garuba's a really nice target. And Kenyon Martin as well, another guy that you could consider picking up. He's been decent. And if Kevin Porter is out again, Martin was starting in the last game and contributed, did enough. So if you want to pick him up, go for it. Denver at Dallas, second last game. Bruce Brown and Bones Highland, I've got them both as ads. I'm not sure if they're long-term ads, but Jamal Murray is out, fairly certain. He could be back in the next game. He could be out a week, as we know with players in the health and safety protocols. There's no real standard sort of time frame on missed games. So both of those guys have been really good the last week. Bruce Brown started the last game. Highland came off the bench. Again, similar sort of positions on the court, but will bring you different stats. So Bruce Brown, he'll get you some assists, but he's a good rebounder. A little bit Josh Harty. He won't score a lot, but he can get you some steals. He can get you some rebounds, some threes. Bones Highland is really just points and threes. He'll get some assists, especially with Jokic still out. There are assists to be had there for both these guys. So both of those I think probably need to be added, even if it's only for the next week. And DeAndre Jordan, I hate recommending him as a streamer, but with no Jokic, he can be picked up just really short term for rebounds and blocks. On the Dallas side, Tim Hardaway Jr., very hot and cold, a little bit like Eric Gordon. If you need some points and threes, have a look at him. And Dorian Finney-Smith, look, he could go for 5 threes. We don't know. He could do absolutely nothing as well, but worth considering. And last game of the night, Spurs at the Lakers. For the Spurs, still missing a few names, and this is the last game of their 5-game week. So you might find that there aren't many streaming options available because people have picked them up yesterday for the back-to-back. Keita Bates-Diop, Jeremy Sohan, and Charles Bassey, I think all three have some streaming value if they are available. And then you're really just going to drop them after tomorrow's game. Sohan, maybe you consider holding on to him. He's been okay. And of those three, his minutes are guaranteed. Moving forward for the Lakers, Schroeder and Thomas Bryant, if they were added or picked up prior to their first game back and then dropped, consider picking them up. I think their minutes, they might play a couple of extra minutes. Are they long-term holds? I'm not sure. But if you want to throw them in there and see what happens tomorrow. Austin Reeves, he's been playing big minutes. have a look at him. Again, not a ton of upside there, and there'd be quite a few names on this list that I would take over Austin Reeves. So having a look at adds and drops, starting with some players that you could look at adding. Now, I haven't included players from Hornets, Raptors, and there's a third team. There's three teams that only have 2 games this week, so I haven't included any names from there. I'm going to move my photo. Can I drag my photo? No, I can't. All right, I'm going to get rid of my photo so you can see the list. So yeah, some ads. Jalen Williams has looked pretty good for Oklahoma City. Poku is out. Not that they really sort of directly correlate their minutes, but with Poku out, there's a few extra minutes to go around. Jalen Williams has looked good. They seem to be happy giving him 30 minutes, so I'd probably be adding him just to see what happens. We do know that the Thunder can mess around with their rotations based on the game and who they're up against and the likely result. So there is a bit of a risk, but I do like him at the moment. Larry Nance, if he's available, he probably shouldn't be, but if he is, make sure he is not available in your league. Go and grab him. I do think Zion is back tomorrow, so we'll get a look at what that rotation looks like with Zion, Valanciunas, and Nance. Prior to Williamson going down, they were leaning into playing Nance alongside Zion. So if that remains the case, Valanciunas will probably likely be at about 20 minutes, 22 minutes, and Larry Nance could be up around 26. Mo Bamba. This is probably not long-term, but just until Banchero is back, Mo Bamba has been starting and playing really well. So I think he's worth a look. Tyus Jones, we touched on him. Killian Hayes, touched on him. John Concha, touched on him. All three of those guys, I think, can have some, medium to long-term value, depending on injuries to other players. Justice Winslow, if Damian Lillard is out, he sort of aggravated his calf on Saturday. We don't know if he's going to miss time, but if he does, Winslow, I think, will handle the ball a bit more. Might not score a lot, but he can get you some assists and some defensive stats as well. Just keep an eye on his percentages, though. They're not great. Bruce Brown, talked about him. Malik Monk for the Kings. If he's still available in a lot of leagues, surprisingly. I thought he would have been added, but that hasn't been the case. I'd probably go and grab him. A little bit of inconsistency in his production, but he does seem to be sort of one of the favourites in terms of bench minutes at the moment. I didn't include any of the Clippers guys. Paul George hurt his knee in Saturday's game, but has said that he will play on in their next game. So I would have included sort of Norm Powell and maybe Terrence Mann there, but didn't really bother based on Paul George likely playing. And some drops as well. So these are guys that are probably rostered in most leagues, and you don't have to drop them, but could consider dropping them. I'm holding a couple of these guys, so as I said, I'm not saying that you have to just run out and drop them and grab anyone. You would only drop these guys if you're picking up some long-term value, or if you want to open up a streaming spot. Colin Sexton for the Jazz. Now, this one probably I put the asterisk there just because Mike Conley did go down with an injury. Only lasted 9 minutes, I think, Saturday night. So if he misses time, Sexton could very well start or at least play sort of 26 minutes. And if that's the case, you don't want to drop him. So I'd probably just hold him just until we get word on Conley. But if Conley is fine and it was just a precautionary thing, then I think Sexton's okay to move on from. Jalen Smith, another guy, he's been up and down. I think he's sort of 170th on the season, something like that. Had a really strong game in the last one, and then tonight's Saturday's game was pretty average, like 14-7 or something with nothing else. So I'm okay to move on from him. I did in one of my leagues, and I'm not regretting it. So Jared Vanderbilt, he's sort of very, very slowly trending down, and it's really just the defensive numbers that aren't there. like we'd hoped. He's getting rebounds, but the Jazz are just, given they're better than we thought they were going to be, and they're trying to win games, they are tending to go away from him a little bit at certain periods throughout the game. So, yeah, he's one of those guys that he's probably on that cut line. So I wouldn't just drop him, but I don't see a ton of upside there for him. Not as much as we'd hoped, anyway. Steven Adams with Jaren Jackson back. Adams will start, but the Grizzlies, as we saw down the stretch last season, they will run Jaren Jackson at the center spot and Brandon Clark alongside him. They have Aldama now as another floor spacing option. So Adams, to me, is probably heading into streaming category, just if you need rebounds and an efficient scorer. Isaiah Hartenstein, this is a sad one. Was pretty high on him. He looked really good in the first 2 to 3 weeks. Despite coming off the bench, he was playing more minutes than Mitchell Robinson. So he's one that I'd hold if you can. Just wait to see when Robinson is back and what that rotation looks like. As I touched on with Jericho Sims, prior to Robinson's injury, it was Robinson starting, Hartenstein getting all the backup minutes. So if they go back to that, then Hartenstein could pick up value again. But if they do like what they've seen from Sims and they decide to give him some minutes as well, then Hartenstein is probably going to be a drop. Isaiah Jackson, another pacer, barely played, I think, tonight. It's sort of going to be matchup based. Turner's playing really well. So Jackson, for me, is really just a streamer or a luxury stash. If you've got a spot there or in a roto league, you could stash him. Harrison Barnes, no need to keep him. He's a point streamer. Kevin Love, fringy sort of guy, but if this finger is going to cause him to miss time, could impact his shooting, we don't know. So, yeah, look, the upside, we know he's not going to play more than about 22 minutes a night. Can get you some points, rebounds, threes. He's a good free throw shooter. So there's enough there, but no upside. So if you want to move on from him, that's fine. And Marcus Morris from the Clippers, he's probably not there yet as a drop, but it's very close. And Kawhi played better today, and I think barring any setbacks, he's going to start ramping up to closer to 30 minutes over the next week or two. So if you want to hold on to Morris until his minutes are down, sort of below about 24, but yeah, I think if he can get 26, 27 a night, he's probably still viable. But yeah, again, he's right there on that cut line. So we've got trade talk. So I put something in our Discord server just asking for some trade questions, redraft trade questions, not dynasty. I'm not even going to pretend to be an expert in dynasty, so I'm just going to focus on some redraft questions. And we have 4 of them. So getting as much information as I could about league settings, that sort of thing, in a 12-team 9-cat league head-to-head. PJ Washington for Jared Vanderbilt. Given I've just said Vanderbilt is a drop or could be a drop, it's obviously Washington here. The only reason I would keep Vanderbilt is if you're punting a lot of categories and all you need are rebounds and maybe some steals. But, I mean, PJ is not bad for steals as well. So pretty easy PJ Washington there for me on that one. 20-team league, 9-category head-to-head bowl for Zach LaVine. It's LaVine, I think you just have to go with the obvious answer here. Bowl has been really good and probably outranks Zach LaVine. Let me have a look, actually. So Bol is the 46th ranked player. I'm pretty sure that's higher than Zach LaVine. Yeah, Zach LaVine is at 81. So look, if I could get LaVine for Bol, I probably would, especially in a deeper league. LaVine's knee does worry me a little bit. The Bulls don't look good. So I guess come February, if they are, I don't think they're going to be bad enough that they're not in the hunt for the playoffs. But if that is the case, I could see him getting shut down. 9-cat head-to-head league, Trey Jones for Kelly Oubre. Look, I think I'd go with Trey Jones there just because of the minutes, his role. He's pretty locked in. Kelly Oubre has been good, surprisingly, but Hayward is back. LaMelo will be back. I just think once they're healthy, Oubre, we've seen this from him before. He'll have 2-3 weeks of really good production, and then he can just go and destroy your percentages and do nothing. So I think I'd take the safer option there with Trey Jones. The only reason I would go with Kelly Oubre is if you need points, if you're desperate for points, because Trey Jones, as we've seen, he can fluctuate between sort of 7-8 points up to around 20. But he will generally get you 7, 8, 9 assists with a steal or two. So I think that's a bit more valuable. And then the last trade question, 20-team 9-cat head-to-head, Jalen Brunson for Bradley Beal. Now, I saw this one and I just thought, surely the answer is Beal. But then having a look through numbers, and I've got both these guys on different teams, I might lean Brunson just because I think points is similar. I think they're both probably 20 points a night. Beal might be slightly above that, 22. But Brunson will get you sort of maybe 7 assists. Beal might only get you 5, 5.5. Brunson will get you a steal. Beal close to a steal. It's really just that assist difference for me. And I don't know, Beal's been a little bit injured over the last couple of years. Nothing that I think is long term, but yeah, I don't know. I might lean Brunson, but I think that's a really fair one. I don't think there's an obvious winner or loser in that one. So yeah. So there we go. So that is all the questions. 28 minutes, pretty good. We knocked that over in about half an hour. That will do it. As I said, we will be back hopefully on Wednesday. B-Dub will be joining me for that one. And then we may have a couple other shows in the works as well, including just the post-game shows, which will be happening once or twice a week as well. Remember to check out all of our content, including access to Discord. Lots of people in the Discord server over at fbibasketball.com. Follow this podcast, all of our podcasts on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. If you could go underneath, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Until next time, catch you later.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out